Hey guys, welcome to my first ever Procreate art tutorial. I'm super excited to share with you guys how I do my stuff. So as you could have seen from the thumbnail, I am drawing Ironheart in honor of the announcement in the MCU, and this is probably one of my most favorite of all the MCU announcements that I saw, so I decided to draw her. And yes, I will be using Procreate. It's going to be pretty cool. So we start off with the basic face shape, which you've probably seen some artists use this circle, the jawline, and the cross for the face. And this is really helpful because it tells you where all the facial features are going to be, and it's also the basic face shape that people have. It's a jawline and a circle for the head. So you're going to see me use that when I post my other art time lapses. Another thing I use is the line of action. You see that swooshy thing? Kind of looks like the Nike logo there. It kind of shows me like where all the drawing's energy is going. And I decided to copy this picture of Iron Man and draw it with Riri Williams. And I used these reference pictures for what Ironheart's suit looks like. And so here I go, combining the two or the three whatever images together. So as you can see, I'm starting to add some details here to the suit and details to the face a little bit. Yeah, the sketch is a really important part of drawing because you can always just erase and go back as many times as you need to before continuing on to the final product. It's like your outline. And there are a lot of different pencils you can use on Procreate. I like this one specific pencil that I'm going to post a screenshot of. It gives a really thick, dark line as opposed to most other pencils. That's why I like it. Yeah, the sketch is really important. And another important thing is to look at reference pictures. So I used many pictures to look at the hairstyle of Riri Williams, and I used pictures to look at what her suit looked like. And here they are. There are a lot of different pictures of Riri Williams and iterations of her in the comics, and I was deciding which way I wanted her hair to go, kinda. And I really liked the kind of half-shaved hair that goes down a little bit, so I decided on that. And again, don't really worry about being too detailed when you're doing the sketch, because you can always fix it later. You can just sort of get the rough approximation. Also, don't be afraid of doing too many lines. You can never have enough lines. Another thing is, don't be afraid to erase. You can erase and Procreate by tapping with 2 fingers or selecting the erase button option. And yes, I did a basic sort of a background here with this because I was looking at the picture of Iron Man, and it kind of had like explosions going down behind him, so I did that. For the outlining, we're going to go into outlining now. You kind of got to do a second layer, so go into layers in Procreate and then click new layer, and you'll be able to do the outline. So you'll choose a pen. There are plenty of pens to choose from in Procreate. I like the technical pen. It's the most standard. It's pretty small. It's pretty good to see. Then you're going to want to go and toggle the opacity of the first layer and turn it really way down. Trust me on this one, because that way you can see where all your lines are when you draw on the new layer. So with the outlines, basically, it takes practice to get the outlines to be nice and sharp. And what you're also going to want to do is just erase a whole bunch. Again, you can go back, go forward as many times as you want until you get it how you want it. So I go in here outlining this. It's quite the process. The whole outlining process is pretty difficult. And don't worry about the background just yet, because you can always add another layer and do that later once you're done with the drawing. Then you're going to want to move into coloring. So what you do is you click on layers, you click on your outline layer, and you click make reference. And that's going to make all the colors stay inside that outline layer. Another thing you're going to want to do is turn off visibility on your sketch layer. And if everything looks good and you don't need to tweak anything, you are good. So after that, you can start selecting colors on the color wheel, and then the way you fill in is you drag and drop the color from the top right into where you need it to go. And you can also toggle how much of the selection it fills in. Make sure you have another layer you're doing color on, so if you want to go back on the color and you want to erase it or something, you don't need to worry about accidentally erasing the rest of your outlines. So you can toggle with the color how much it fills in. So once you drag and drop your color into the outline on the separate layer, once you've made the outline layer a reference, you can stop and hold, and by pushing your pencil or your pen forward on to the right, it fills in more, and if you push it left, it fills in less. So you can kind of toggle that much. And if you accidentally drag it and it fills too much, you can just click with 2 fingers and it goes back, and you can try again, this time toggling with how much it fills. I chose to do the lip. Here's where I did the lips color. In order to do like lips and facial shading, like blush and stuff like that, I normally go to the color of the face, which you can get the same color you had previously by tapping and holding with your finger on the color that you want, and then I toggle it to get a little bit pinker, so you push the color wheel towards the red side, and that's how I got her lip color. Then I began with the shading, and so in shading you need to create a whole new layer just for the shading. And there are many brushes you can use for shading, but I like to use the soft airbrush, the softest one possible, because it looks like light, kind of just barely brushing against the metal of her suit and the face and the contours, so I use the soft brush. And when you're doing that, basically what you want to do is you want to make the brush the size you want it, so whether you're shading something that's very big, something that's very small, and then you're going to want to turn the opacity on the brush down, so it doesn't fill it in completely black. It's just a little bit of a dark shading. So I go in and around. I decided that the light was coming from the right where her hand was, since I'm going to make that glowing later, and I'll show you how to do that later. So once I decided the light was coming from the right side of the screen, her left, I started filling in the shading for her face. Now face shading is ridiculously hard. I'm still practicing. I'm not an expert at it, but I looked at some charts online on how to shade faces and where the light's coming from and where the dark shadows need to be. So I started shading it that way. And another thing that's going to be your friend while you're shading is the eraser. And you're going to want to set the eraser to the same brush as the shading, the soft brush, so you can kind of take down the intensity of the shading after you've drawn it on there. So you can sort of get the shading that you want and then turn down the intensity. Again, make sure you're shading it on a different layer than where you put your color, so that when you erase, it doesn't erase your color or your outlines. The next part of shading I like to do is where I select a brush that has, it's a sort of a scratchy brush to make it seem like it's dirtied up. I do a lot of superhero drawings, so this brush is my friend. It's like acrylic, so it looks like paint. It's like a wet acrylic, so it looks scratchy, and when I brush it on with the rest of the shading lines, it looks like her suit is roughed up and dirty. So again, I do the same thing I did with the other shading. I put it on a new layer so I can erase this one separately, and I turn down the opacity so it doesn't fill it in completely black. And so I brush that over all the places where I shaded with the airbrush. I add a little bit more to her face to make her look like she's in battle. A good way to accentuate in like dirt on face when you're doing superheroes. I can check reference pictures in a lot of superhero posters, but you accentuate the lips, forehead, and the cheekbones. And that's where I kind of went with this one. Here's where I forgot that I didn't do her eyelashes. So I selected another brush that was kind of scratchy, and I filled in her eyelashes and eyebrows. Again, I added this on a different layer, so if I wanted to erase it, I wouldn't accidentally erase any of my shading. Now we're going to move into making her arc chest reactor look like it glowed. Now here's where I put in, she has a little bit of a heart and then a swish over her chest plate, and I kind of like that, so I kept the swish. Now what brush you're going to want to use is either light pen or the light brush, and this one gives like a beam of light with some glow to the outside of it. So this is notoriously hard to draw with because you have to get down not only where the light is the source, the bright part, you also have to get the glow sort of fixed on it. So once you get the glow fixed on it, you trace it really lightly as possible. Make sure it's on a different layer again. Different layers is crucial to this sort of thing. Then once you have that, you can sort of touch it up a little bit as much as you want. Be careful, because once you erase, it's going to erase not only where the light's coming from, but also the glow of it. So make sure your lines are really confident and turn the size of your brush as far down as you need it to be so you can get as accurate as possible. Then I started getting to work on the background, and again I looked at the reference picture. It looks like there's sort of particles coming down and a bunch of dust streaming in a diagonal motion. So once I checked that, I used again the acrylic brush on a different layer. You're going to want to make sure the layer is behind everything else so you don't draw over your drawing, and you brush the acrylic black, not so very opaque, over the background color, which you can change, which I changed to gray. Another detail I added to the background was the sparkles, and as you could see from my other superhero drawing, I included those as well because I feel like they just sort of make it look more like a poster, if you know what I'm saying. So I added the sparkles. Once you do a color for the sparkles, it kind of adds the colors that it thinks go well with it. So I toggled it to a magenta color, and it added sort of an orange and yellow, which fit perfectly with the drawing. Now once I did that, I realized I forgot to shade the metal so it looked like it was glowing. Now, I hadn't really done this much before, but what I did was I used the light brush again, made it a much lighter color, and I, of course, made a new layer, and I brushed it very lightly over the parts of the metal of her suit where it would be glowing. And after that, I sort of added some dark areas to the background to make a more of an intense contrast between her and her background. And another thing that I did was I started adding shading a little bit more to her suit to make it look like she was putting her hand out in front of her and not really putting it out to the side. So there it is, my drawing of Riri Williams, also known as Ironheart, with Procreate. I'm really excited about her coming into the MCU because I love Iron Man, and of course I love female superheroes and teenagers, as we know from my rant that I posted last week. And I'm just really excited to see her in the MCU. So I hope you like my drawing, my tutorial. I hope this helped learning how to draw with Procreate and drawing in general. And I just hope you enjoyed watching me draw something and learning about how it's done, even if you don't plan on drawing or you're just here for fun. So thank you very much for watching. See you guys later. Bye.